So today we'll take a look at the pair of bookshelf speakers from Quadral, called Platinum Two. I think they're supposed to compete with products like Bowers & Wilkins 606/706, Monitor Audio Silver 100 or KEF LS50. And I'm saying supposed to, because the pricing of this set of speakers is highly variable between the countries and shops. I think at least part of the reason is that Quadral is a relatively small brand compared to those giants like Bowers & Wilkins or KEF. So it means demand is probably a bit lower too. And since of course margins are pretty high in the hairfire market, it may be the case that Quadral will offer more for less. Let's check this out. Believe it or not, I actually managed to get those speakers for about 500 euros for a demo pair. I've seen them online for 700 euros and even 1400 euros brand new, so you see price truly varies quite a lot. The speakers are very nicely designed and I wouldn't hesitate to call them stylish. I especially liked how smoothly they incorporated the tweeter into the cabinet. No additional rings, etc., just plain even transition. The tweeter is protected by mesh and the woofer is sitting behind the removable grill, which looks surprisingly clean. Normally I hate using grills, but I have to say those are one of the few speakers I've seen that actually look pretty good with them. Even though I was always generally all for wood veneer, I have to appreciate the satin white finish because it fits the design well and simply feels great. That's because the whole paint job is of the highest quality. Build quality and design is easily on par with the rivals such as Focal Area 906 or Bowers & Wilkins 706, if not a bit better in some terms. Let me show you the back of those Quadrals, and I tell you, this is how every speaker terminal should look. This plate and plugs are made out of real metal, polished to the mirror finish. And everything in here looks not only expensive, but I would say class leading. And trust me, this is not an exaggeration. I should also mention you can tune the amount of high frequencies you get with this little selector, but I believe it's best to leave it on the middle position. Also, you are probably looking at those 14 screws on the back. Yes, quite a lot, and that's how I decided to engineer the assembly, I guess. The fun fact is that all of those little screws have Quadral name on them. On the bottom we have this sort of double chin, which I think may serve as a clever solution, especially for those of you who won't be using stands. It can probably mimic the way stands work a bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think you can unscrew this bottom piece to mount the speakers on the standard more narrow stands. So, as you may or may not know, I've started this channel searching for the replacement of my old Wharfedale Diamond 10.2s. And I've listened to many of the competitors, for example KEF Q350, Monitor Audio Bronze 2, Castle Knight 2, DALI Sensor 3, brand Bowers & Wilkins 606. Indeed, some of them were superior in few terms, but I found myself always coming back to the Wharfedales for some reason. My main gripe with the rivals was that they sounded too thin and lacking in terms of bass. Maybe apart from the KEF Q350, but that speaker had its whole other sonic disadvantages. So after all of this experience, I made a little research and, like I said, found those Quadrals for 500 euros and decided I need to give them a try. Let me tell you, I don't regret it. The sound coming from the Platinum Two is full of authority, depth and detail. It has impressive scale and power that really exceeds their physical size in a way. That's even more noticeable when you crank up the volume a bit. Also, at the same time, the whole presentation is smooth, easy to listen to and full of nuances and textures thanks to the fantastic high-frequency reproduction. The Recon Plus tweeter provides with one of the best performances I've listened to. What's even better that it almost never reaches billions as some of the rivals do, like for example harshness in the B&W 606 or metallic sound from the KEF Q350. At the same time, the sound stays rich and very, I would say, realistic at times. Little effects in music like snapping fingers or snare drums sound just so vibrant and accurate. As a result, I can feel a large sense of separation, which I think also comes at least partly from the just as good mid-woofer called Ultima. As the name suggests, it's a composite of magnesium, aluminium and titanium. Objectively speaking, the bass is a thing which this speaker does probably better than every other in the class. It does not only has plenty of power and gets really deep, at the same time it stays surprisingly composed and precise, working together with the tweeter to provide a true impression of having sophisticated three-dimensional-like sound. Great control and power in bass also mean you will hear genuine authority in the vocals, which is the case with those Quadrals. The mids themselves are pretty good, but may sound just a little warmish and laid back. Although I wouldn't worry about that, it's definitely not to the point as my old Wartels did. When it comes to the soundstage, it could be slightly wider. On the other hand, there is plenty of depth, which unfortunately most speakers lack, like I've said. That was one of my main gripes with, for example, B&W 606, although I have to say that one and few others, like M-Audiophile 2, were a little bit better when it comes to the horizontal dispersion. Anyway, my tip is to remember to set those quadrals a bit wider, give them room to breathe, and you will probably be happy with the results. In conclusion, Quadral Platinum Two speakers are an absolute bargain if you can find them for less than €1000, and frankly, I believe even more expensive rivals could have hard time competing with this one. The speakers are very uniquely designed and enclosed in a cabinet that's of absolute top quality. The sound signature is relatively balanced, smooth, highly detailed, and at the same time bold and powerful. So, I give them 5 out of 5 stars, and I think those Quadrals deserve my absolute recommendation. But each to their own. Perhaps if you're mainly looking for the most clarity and wide soundstage, you may prefer other speakers such as Bowers & Wilkins or Monitor Audio. I plan to make more audio reviews in the future, but we'll see how that goes. Just remember that I'm simply a hobbyist giving my honest opinion about the product. So if you can, subscribe and rate this video. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.